My wife announced, I need to explore who I am outside of this marriage. She packed her bags, with her sister cheering her on, but the prenup and my receipts gave her a reality check. I, 36 male, have been married to Miranda, 33 female, for 4 years, together for 7. I'm a welder here in Texas, working for a fabrication shop that does industrial contracts. She's a personal trainer who does social media management on the side. Welding teaches you to spot structural problems before they become disasters. Cracks in foundations, stress points that'll fail under pressure, materials that look solid, but are rotting from the inside. Turns out, wives aren't that different. My old man worked construction his whole life, taught me everything about engines, tools, and not being a pushover. He also taught me the most expensive lesson of his life when his wife cleaned out his retirement and ran off with some CrossFit trainer when I was 19. Dad went from owning 3 rental properties to living in a studio apartment. Son, he told me before he died, love's great and all, but paperwork's what keeps you from living in your truck when she decides to cash out. That's why Miranda and I signed a prenup early on. Not romantic, but neither is eating cat food at 60. For the past year, I'd been grinding overtime to surprise her with a new Jeep Wrangler. Her 2019 Corolla had been acting up, and she kept complaining about wanting something with more space for her training equipment. The overtime meant 12-hour days, getting home around 9 p.m. instead of my usual 6 p.m. We'd landed some big industrial contracts, and the overtime pay alone would cover the Jeep and then some. Miranda seemed cool with the schedule. She'd have dinner waiting. We'd watch Netflix. Normal married couple routine. She said she was so proud of how dedicated I was, and that she knew I was building our future. Funny how our future turned into her escape plan. Because one evening, everything changed. I finished a job early and rolled up to our house around 6:30. As I'm walking up the driveway, I hear Miranda on the phone in our living room. Our house is one of those 1980s ranch styles with thin walls, and sound carries like crazy. What I heard next was like getting hit with a sledgehammer. I'm telling you, this timing is perfect, Katie. He's never home before 9 these days. I could easily meet Derek for drinks, maybe dinner, see where things go. Mike's too clueless to figure it out. I stopped dead. Derek, the CrossFit trainer from her gym who'd been sliding into her Instagram DMs for months. Nothing overtly inappropriate, but the kind of comments that made my bullcrap detector go off. Katie is Miranda's younger sister. The same Katie who got destroyed in her divorce last year after her husband caught her cheating with a bartender. She got absolutely wrecked financially, and now she's bitter as heck, pushing the "you're young, explore your options" nonsense. Katie, I know what you're thinking, Miranda continued, practically giggling. But what if this is my only chance to see if there's something better out there? Mike's fine as a provider, but he's so boring, so predictable. Derek makes me feel alive again, like I did before I got stuck in this suburban housewife prison. Katie's voice came through the speakerphone. Girl, yes! You gave Mike your best years for what? So you could be some welder's wife? You're 33, not 53. If you don't explore this connection with Derek now, you'll regret it forever. You deserve better than this. I stood there for 10 minutes listening to my wife plan to cheat on me with explicit coaching from her trashy sister. They discussed logistics, when to meet him, how to cover their tracks, what lies to feed me. The conversation ended with them planning to meet for coffee the next day to strategize the whole thing. Every word felt like a kick to the gut, but I kept my mouth shut and my head clear. I went around back, made noise with my keys, and walked in like nothing happened. Miranda greeted me with a kiss and asked about my day like she gave 2 cents about anything other than her exit plan. She even made my favorite chili that night, sitting across from me talking about her day, while I'm thinking about her planning to hook up with another dude while I'm working overtime to buy her a dang car. Lying in bed next to her that night, I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m. This woman I'd been with for 7 years was planning to stab me in the back, and she was doing it with a smile, making my favorite dinner, asking about my work like a devoted little wife. I made a decision that night. This wasn't about saving the marriage or working through problems. This was about protecting myself from someone who'd already shown me exactly who she was when she thought nobody was listening. Game on. The next morning, I called in sick and made 2 phone calls that would flip Miranda's world upside down. First call was to Jim, the attorney who'd handled our prenup. The second call was to Tony, my younger brother. Jim's office has marble floors and leather furniture that screams, "I destroy people for a living." He reviewed our prenup over coffee and confirmed what I suspected. I was bulletproof financially. "You did solid work here, Mike," he said. "Individual assets stay individual. No alimony unless there are kids involved, and clean division of shared debts. If she's planning what you think she's planning, she's going to get a reality check that'll leave marks." He also mentioned Texas being a one-party consent state. You can record conversations in your own home as long as you're present. Tony showed up that afternoon with his electrician's toolkit and a grin that meant somebody was about to get screwed. 3 years younger than me, built like a brick house, and blessed with street smarts that come from never backing down from anything. So your wife's planning to mess around on you, he said. What's the play? Document everything. Let her think she's playing chess while I'm setting up nuclear warfare. What do you need from me? Just be ready. This is going to get ugly. Tony installed what looked like a Bluetooth speaker in our living room entertainment center. Except it wasn't a speaker. It was a recording device that would capture everything said in our main living area. Over the next 2 weeks, I hit the jackpot. 4 more conversations between Miranda and Katie, all recorded in crystal clear audio. These weren't just planning sessions. They were masterclasses in what entitled women sound like when they think nobody's listening. In the first one, they mapped out specific dates when I'd be working late. Miranda had my schedule memorized better than I did. They discussed using cash instead of cards to avoid digital trails, meeting at restaurants across town, even what revealing outfits she'd wear to get Derek's attention. The second conversation was about cover stories. They decided she'd tell me she was taking evening fitness certification courses, 3 nights a week for 6 weeks. Katie would even forge fake paperwork if I asked questions. The third one nearly made me punch a hole through the wall. They were laughing about how clueless I was, how I worked like a dog while she planned to trade up. Miranda actually said, Mike's like a golden retriever, loyal, predictable, and completely oblivious to everything. The fourth conversation was the nail in the coffin. They were discussing what would happen if I found out. Katie's advice? Deny everything, make him think he's paranoid, and if all else fails, play the victim. Men always fold when women start crying and threatening to leave. Meanwhile, Miranda was still acting like the perfect wife. She'd greet me with a soda, ask about my welding jobs, even surprise me with Rangers tickets. The cognitive dissonance was insane, but I started noticing changes she thought I wouldn't catch. New workout clothes that showed more skin, getting her nails done weekly instead of monthly, expensive skincare products she'd ordered online. She'd started taking her phone everywhere and charging it on her side of the bed instead of the kitchen counter. The biggest tell was how she acted around Tony. Miranda used to bust his chops about tracking mud through the house and leaving soda cans around. Now she was bringing him sodas, asking about his work, being sweet as pie. Your wife's acting sketchy as heck, Tony told me after she'd gone upstairs. 2 weeks into my surveillance operation, Miranda finally made her move. She sat me down after dinner with this rehearsed, dramatic expression. Mike, we need to talk. She folded her hands like she was delivering a TED Talk. I've been thinking a lot lately, and I need to be honest about something important. I set down my drink, already knowing every nonsense word coming next. All right, shoot. I love you, I really do. But I feel like I've completely lost myself in our relationship. Her voice had this practiced therapy speak rhythm. I need some space to remember who I was before I became just your wife. I think a trial separation would be healthy for both of us. I nodded slowly, keeping my face neutral. Maybe 6 weeks, 2 months at the most. Katie said I could stay with her while I gained some perspective on our relationship and figure out what I really want. Of course, Katie had already rolled out the red carpet for Operation Jerk Hunting. What would that look like practically? I asked, playing the concerned husband. Would we talk at all? She perked up, thinking this was going smoother than expected. We could text, maybe call sometimes. I just need physical space to think clearly about us and what our future looks like. And after the separation, maybe we could try marriage counseling when I'm ready. Work through whatever issues we have and see if we can rebuild something stronger. She reached across and touched my hand. I was worried you'd be angry or try to talk me out of it. I'm not angry, Miranda. I just want to understand what you need to be happy. Her eyes got teary from relief. This doesn't mean I don't love you. I just need to figure out if I'm staying, because I choose to, or because it's comfortable and safe. I want you to be happy, I said, meeting her eyes. If this is what you need, then take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready to talk about our future. The relief on her face was unmistakable. She'd expected a fight, maybe begging, possibly me threatening to cut her off financially. Instead, she got complete understanding and support for her journey of self-discovery. If she only knew what kind of journey I had planned for her. After she went to bed, I sat in my kitchen and felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not sadness, just cold, clear determination. Now it was time to show her who I was when I stopped playing the nice guy. What Miranda didn't know was that Monday morning, while she was texting Derek about their upcoming freedom, I was in Jim's office filing for divorce. Papers were submitted, fees paid, and the legal machinery was grinding into motion. She also didn't know that the $52,000 I'd saved from overtime, originally for her Jeep, had been quietly moved to my individual account that predated our marriage. Our prenup made it crystal clear. Individual assets remain individual property. The plan was beautiful and simple. Let her think she was winning the game while I burned down the entire board. She moved out Sunday morning with a performance that would have impressed Broadway. She packed 3 suitcases while giving me this speech about loving me, but needing to explore who I am outside of being someone's wife. Katie was there for moral support, shooting me sympathetic looks like she wasn't the puppet master pulling all the strings. She kept making comments about how mature and understanding I was being, how most husbands would be having complete meltdowns. "Take care of yourself, Mike," Katie said as they loaded Miranda's stuff. "This isn't about you not being good enough. Sometimes people just need to spread their wings and fly." Yeah, sure. I was about to send her to the moon. I helped carry the bags and told Miranda to take all the time she needed. I even hugged her goodbye and told her I loved her. Tony came over Tuesday with Chinese takeout and drinks. I played him the recordings, showed him the divorce papers, laid out the whole strategy. "Damn," he said. "She's really planning to cheat while you pay all her bills? Planning? Heck, she's probably already started. I give it 3 days before Derek's sampling what my overtime money paid for." Tony was quiet for a minute, then started grinning that grin that used to get us in trouble as kids. "So what's the timeline?" "Friday afternoon. I'm serving her papers while she's still riding high on her newfound freedom. Need backup? Nah, but stick around after. Something tells me she's not going to take this well." Tony just nodded and cracked another soda. "This is going to be absolutely beautiful to watch." Meanwhile, Miranda had been texting me daily updates on her self-discovery journey. Photos of coffee dates with new friends. Probably Derek. Yoga sessions at different studios. Expensive dinners she couldn't afford with captions like, "Treating myself for the first time in years." Each text was a knife twist, but I responded with supportive messages about taking all the time she needed, and how proud I was of her courage. "Thursday night," she called. "Mike, I just wanted to thank you again for being so understanding about this. I want what's best for you, Jess." "I know, and that means everything to me. Katie was just saying how mature you're being about this whole thing. She said most men would be blowing up my phone, demanding I come home, maybe even getting violent or threatening. Katie's got opinions about everything," I said, thinking about how her opinions were about to bite them both in the rear. Miranda laughed. "She really does. But she's been such an incredible sister through this process. I honestly don't know what I would have done without her support and encouragement. Family's important. You take care of yourself out there. I love you, Mike. And I know this is hard, but I really think this space is going to help us both grow as people. I love you too." I hung up. Tomorrow, Miranda's little fantasy world was going to explode, and I had front row seats to the show. Friday afternoon, I drove to Katie's apartment complex with a manila envelope that was about to detonate Miranda's whole universe. The place was one of those fake luxury developments with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances built on overpriced nonsense. Miranda answered the door with this bright, manic smile that screamed, "I'm living my best life now." She looked different. Expensive new haircut, full makeup at 3 p.m., wearing some flowy bohemian dress she never would have been caught dead in before, playing dress up as the free-spirited woman she thought she was. "Mike, what a wonderful surprise. I was just thinking about you. Come in." She was practically bouncing, probably thinking I was there to beg her to come home. The apartment was exactly what I expected. Instagram ready with meaningless inspirational quotes on the walls like, "She believed she could, so she did." Katie was nowhere to be seen, probably giving us space for our emotional moment. I handed Miranda the manila envelope without ceremony. "I was thinking about you too. That's why I wanted to get these to you as soon as possible." Her smile faltered as she took the envelope. What is this?" "Divorce papers. I figured since you're exploring your options, I should explore mine too." The color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. She had to sit down on Katie's overpriced sectional, staring at the legal documents like they were written in a foreign language. "Mike, I don't understand. This is just a trial separation. I told you I needed time to think about us. And I gave you time to think. I also gave myself time to think. This is what I decided." Katie materialized from the kitchen like a bad magic trick, saw the papers, and immediately went into damage control mode. "Mike, what the hell? Don't you think you're being a little hasty? Miranda just needs space to work through some personal growth issues." "Personal growth issues like planning to sleep with Derek from the gym?" Dead silence. Miranda's face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, shock, fear, anger, then back to confusion. We haven't, Mike, you would never what? Plan to cheat on me? Because I have recordings of you and Katie discussing exactly that. Planning lies to tell me, scheduling meetups based on my work schedule, even practicing your nonsense excuses." Katie's face went white. "You recorded us? That's illegal wiretapping, you psychopath. Actually, it's perfectly legal. Texas is a one-party consent state. I'm the one party, and I consented to recording conversations in my own house. Miranda went from shock to desperate to angry in about 30 seconds. First came the tearful denials. She never actually did anything physical. It was just conversations, harmless fantasy nonsense. Then came the bargaining, maybe counseling. She'd cut contact with Derek and Katie. She'd do anything to save our marriage. When I didn't budge, she switched tactics completely. Fine. If you're going to throw away 7 years over some stupid conversations, then I need access to our savings account. I sacrificed career opportunities to support your advancement. I deserve half of everything we built together. That's when I delivered the killing blow. The money you're thinking of, that overtime money you knew I was saving, was never ours. It was always in my individual account that predates our marriage. Our prenup makes it crystal clear. Individual assets remain individual property. Her face went white. What? No, there's no way. You planned this. You've been planning to divorce me and you set me up to look like the bad guy. I planned to surprise you with a new Jeep Wrangler. I ended up surprising you with divorce papers instead. Life's funny that way. She started screaming about how unfair it all was. How I'd tricked her into signing a prenup that left her with nothing. How she deserved compensation for being a good wife. I reminded her that being a good wife apparently included planning to sleep with other men while I worked overtime to support her. Katie jumped in with threats about getting lawyers and fighting the prenup, claiming it was signed under duress and emotional manipulation. You're both welcome to try, I told them calmly. But my lawyer's pretty confident in our documentation. We have email chains discussing the prenup terms, video of us both signing it with our attorneys present, and 4 years of financial records showing exactly who earned what. That's when Miranda pulled out what she thought was her nuclear option. I'm pregnant. Silence. Like a fart out of nowhere. I looked at her for a long moment, remembering the wine she'd been drinking 2 weeks ago, and the cocktail photos she'd posted on Instagram last weekend. Congratulations! I assume Derek's excited about becoming a father. She completely broke down, sobbing and admitting she wasn't pregnant, begging me to reconsider, promising she'd never gone through with anything physical. Maybe that's true, I said, standing up. But you were planning to cheat. The only reason you didn't is because you haven't had the chance yet. Well, now you have all the opportunity in the world. I headed for the door while both women dissolved into complete hysterics. This is insane, Katie screamed. You can't just destroy someone's life over a few private conversations. Watch me. I left them both crying in that fake luxury apartment and drove home in perfect silence. My phone started buzzing immediately, but I turned it off and enjoyed the quiet. The real fireworks were just getting started. The day after I served papers, Miranda launched what my lawyer called a scorched earth campaign. Throw every piece of garbage at the wall and see what sticks. Monday morning started with my boss calling me into his office. Miranda had called our company claiming I was having a complete mental breakdown and was potentially dangerous to coworkers. She told HR I'd been acting erratically, making threats, and that she was afraid I might snap and do something violent at work. Fortunately, I'd already warned my supervisor about potential retaliation attempts. My boss, Joe, has known me for 6 years. Mike, I've got to ask, is there any truth to what she's saying? Joe asked. I mean, I know you're not crazy, but I have to document this nonsense. Joe, in 6 years, have you ever seen me lose my temper? He laughed. You're the calmest guy I know. You once talked a crane operator down from a panic attack when his rig broke down 40 feet up. My wife's desperate and trying anything she can think of. Already figured that out. But if she calls again, I'm having legal send her a cease and desist letter. Tuesday brought round 2, the fake pregnancy angle with a twist. Miranda called my lawyer claiming she needed emergency spousal support due to her condition and couldn't afford prenatal care without my financial assistance. Jim didn't even blink. We'll need medical verification from a licensed physician. Also, since the divorce papers mention adultery grounds, we'll need paternity testing. We never heard back about that pregnancy nonsense. Wednesday was the most creative attempt. Katie called our neighbors posing as a social worker investigating domestic disturbance reports at our address. She claimed there had been multiple complaints about screaming and possible violence. Unfortunately for them, one of our neighbors is Rick, a retired sheriff's deputy who spent 30 years dealing with con artists. Rick got suspicious when social worker Katie couldn't provide proper ID, agency contact info, or even spell our county name correctly. Ma'am, I'm going to need an official ID and a badge number, or I'm calling the real police to report impersonation of a government official. Katie panicked and ran. Rick got her license plate and called his former colleagues. They traced it back to Katie and paid her a visit about filing false reports and impersonating a government official. My lawyer documented every harassment attempt. Each desperate move just strengthened our case and showed the court exactly what kind of people they were dealing with. Thursday was suspiciously quiet. Too dang quiet. Friday evening, I got a call that blindsided me. Derek. Yeah, that Derek. Look, man, I need to talk to you about Miranda. This whole situation has gotten completely out of control. Turns out Miranda had been spinning quite the tale. She'd told him I was abusive and controlling, that she needed a safe place while dealing with her dangerous husband. She'd been using our separation as a sob story to get sympathy and free meals. But then she started talking about needing money for lawyers to get what she deserves from me. When Derek suggested getting a job or more clients, she lost her mind and started demanding he prove he cared by opening his wallet. Derek got suspicious and did some social media detective work, found photos of Miranda and me looking happy together, realized the timeline didn't match what she'd told him about being separated for months. Look, I'm not trying to get in the middle of a divorce, but I thought you should know she's been lying to both of us. I stopped returning her calls. Even her backup plan was jumping ship. Beautiful. That's when Tony showed up with pizza and drinks, like he had a sixth sense for when I needed backup. Heard your wife's been busy this week, he said. Rick told me about the fake social worker nonsense. That's felony level stupid. She's desperate. Desperate people do incredibly dumb stuff. What's the timeline from here? Court date's Tuesday. After that, it's over. Tony nodded. And if she tries more stupid stuff, then we handle it. I was wrong about her running out of cards to play. Miranda still had one more ace up her sleeve, and it was going to be her dumbest move yet. The final court hearing was Tuesday morning in Judge Lopez's courtroom. Miranda showed up with a public defender. Apparently couldn't afford private counsel after blowing her savings on her self-discovery journey. The lawyer looked fresh out of law school and like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. I sat with Jim, who was wearing his best "I'm about to destroy someone" suit, carrying a briefcase full of documentation that would make Miranda's lies crumble into dust. Miranda tried one final desperate Hail Mary. Her public defender claimed the prenup was signed under duress, that I'd hidden assets she was entitled to, and that she deserved spousal support for sacrificing her career advancement opportunities. Jim stood up and calmly presented our evidence. Video of us both signing the prenup with our attorneys present. Email chains where we discussed and agreed to every single term. Complete financial records showing every penny earned during our marriage. Then came the coup de grace, the recordings of Miranda and Katie planning her affair, complete with professional transcripts. Judge Lopez listened to about 30 seconds of Miranda laughing about how clueless I was before she'd heard enough. "Ma'am," she said, looking directly at Miranda, "are you claiming you were coerced into signing this prenuptial agreement?" "Your Honor, I was young and in love. I didn't understand the full implications. You were 29 years old with a college degree. The record shows you had independent legal counsel who advised you for 3 weeks. Is that correct?" Miranda's lawyer whispered something. She nodded reluctantly. "And these recordings, do you deny that's your voice planning to commit adultery while your husband worked overtime to support you?" Another whispered conference. Another reluctant nod. "Divorce granted. No alimony, no asset division beyond the joint checking account balance of $2,847. Mrs. Wilson, you're responsible for your own legal fees and any debts incurred during the separation." The gavel came down like a gunshot. Miranda's public defender leaned over. "Ma'am, I'd strongly advise against appealing. You'd be throwing good money after bad." After court, Jim filled me in on what his investigator had discovered about Miranda's exploration phase. She'd been living like she was already divorced and entitled to half my assets. New wardrobe, expensive dinners, spa treatments, even a weekend trip to Dallas with Katie, all funded by maxing out credit cards she thought I'd be responsible for. She was now personally responsible for about $13,500 in debt from her journey of self-discovery. I changed the locks that weekend and had a professional security system installed. Cameras covering every entrance, motion sensors, the works. Miranda still had Katie and a few mutual friends sending angry messages about how I'd destroyed a good woman's life. But phones have block functions for a reason. The weird part was how incredible I felt. Not bitter, not angry, just completely free. The house felt like mine. I could come home to actual peace instead of wondering what fresh manipulation was waiting. Tony came over that weekend to help rearrange furniture and celebrate with steaks. "You know she's not done yet, right?" he said while we grilled. "Women like that don't just accept defeat and move on quietly. What do you think she'll try next?" "No idea, but whatever it is will be stupid and desperate." He was right, but I wasn't prepared for just how stupid Miranda was about to get. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Miranda showed up at my work like a ghost from a nightmare I thought was over. Security called before letting her up to the shop floor. "Mike, there's a woman downstairs who says she's your wife. She's, pretty messed up looking. Should I let her up?" "Ex-wife." Yeah, let her up, but stay close. Miranda looked like absolute heck when she walked into our break room. Dark circles under her eyes, clothes that looked slept in, hair that hadn't seen a brush in a week. The polished, exploring herself version was gone, replaced by desperation wearing human skin. Mike, please, just 5 minutes. I need to talk to you. I closed the door and sat across from her. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I was confused, and Katie was poisoning my mind about the grass being greener, and I completely messed up everything we had. I sat there saying nothing. Derek turned out to be a complete piece of garbage. Soon as he found out I was broke with legal bills, he ghosted me completely. Katie's place is a dump, and now she's charging me rent I can't afford. Still nothing. My credit cards are maxed out, and I can't make minimum payments. My car is about to be repossessed. I can't even afford groceries half the time. I finally spoke. Oh no. How does any of that concern me? Please, Mike. I know I hurt you. I know I completely betrayed your trust. But we had 7 years together. That has to count for something. Nope. Those 7 years ended the moment you decided to cheat while keeping me as your backup plan. But I never actually cheated. I never slept with Derek. I never even kissed him. I don't care. The only thing that stopped you was not having the opportunity yet. She started crying, ugly, desperate sobbing. I'm losing everything. Everything. Figure it out. That's what exploring yourself means, right? You wanted to see what was out there. Now you know. What am I supposed to do? I have nothing left. I stood up. Conversation is over. Don't come to my workplace again, and don't contact me. We're done. You can't just throw me away like garbage. I gave you the best years of my life. You gave me 7 years of lies. Move on. Security escorted her out, but I had a feeling this wasn't over. That night, she started calling. Every hour from 8 p.m. until 3 a.m. I'd blocked her number, but she was using Katie's phone, borrowed phones, even payphones like some stalker from the 1990s. The voicemails ranged from desperate begging to angry threats to rambling about how I destroyed her life, and she was going to make me pay. Tony stayed over, and we listened to a few messages while having drinks on my back porch. This woman has completely lost her mind, he said, after one particularly unhinged voicemail where she threatened to tell everyone the truth about me. She's going full psycho ex-wife. The next day brought the main event. I was working in my garage when the security system started going off. The cameras showed Miranda in my front yard, pounding on my door and screaming about how I'd destroyed her life and she wasn't leaving until I helped her. She kept it up for 2 solid hours, screaming, crying, demanding I come outside and face her like a man. My neighbors were starting to come out to see what the heck was happening. Finally, Rick called the police. When the cops arrived, Miranda told them I'd stolen money from her and that she was legally entitled to half of everything. The officers were professional but clear. This was a civil matter already settled in court, and she needed to leave immediately. That's when Miranda made her biggest mistake. She grabbed one of the decorative rocks from my landscaping and hurled it at my living room window. The rock bounced off. I'd had security glass installed, but the intent was crystal clear, and every second was captured in 4K by my security cameras. The officers didn't hesitate. Miranda was cuffed and stuffed into the patrol car, while she screamed about how this was all unfair, and I was the real criminal. Criminal damage to property, trespassing, disturbing the peace, all caught on video with multiple witnesses. Sometimes you just have to let people destroy themselves, and my ex-wife was a master at it. The rock-throwing incident was the gift that kept giving. My lawyer fast-tracked a restraining order, and Miranda spent 2 nights in county lockup because Katie couldn't scrape together bail money. But getting arrested didn't teach her anything. If anything, it made her more desperate and stupid. When she got out, Miranda started a social media campaign that would have been hilarious if it wasn't so pathetic. She posted on Facebook about how I'd financially abused her and stolen her future. Tagged all our mutual friends, my coworkers, even my company's business page with rants about what a manipulative sociopath I was. She posted screenshots of our text conversations, conveniently edited to make me look cold and heartless. Posted photos of herself crying with captions about narcissistic abuse and financial manipulation. Even started a GoFundMe asking for donations to help her escape from our marriage aftermath. Big mistake. My lawyer sent her a cease and desist, and when she ignored it and doubled down with more posts calling me abusive, we filed a defamation lawsuit. The discovery phase was beautiful. We subpoenaed all her social media accounts, text messages, even her search history. Turns out she'd been Googling things like how to get more money in divorce and how to prove financial abuse right up until the court date. Funny, that's when she called me, sobbing hysterically. Mike, please, you have to drop this lawsuit. My lawyer says they can garnish my wages for 10 years. I'm already broke. This will completely ruin what's left of my life. Should have thought of that before you tried to ruin my reputation and career. I'll delete all the posts. I'll post a public apology. I'll do whatever you want. Too late. I hung up. 3 days later came the grand finale. I was in my garage working on my truck around 10 p.m. when every security sensor on my property lit up like Christmas. The cameras showed a figure climbing over my back fence, Miranda, looking like she'd been living rough for weeks. I called Tony first. She's in my backyard. On my way. Don't go outside. Then I called 911. I have someone trespassing in violation of a restraining order. I need officers immediately. Miranda was pounding on my back door when the first patrol car arrived, screaming about how I owed her, how I destroyed her life, how she wasn't leaving until I helped her get back on her feet. The officers who responded were the same ones from previous incidents. They knew the story and looked like they were enjoying the show. Ma'am, you're in violation of a restraining order and you're trespassing. Turn around and put your hands behind your back, completely snapped. Started screaming, the system is always against women. You men are manipulators. She tried to run, but there's nowhere to go in a fenced backyard. I swear to God, it felt like I'm watching Tom and Jerry live. They had to physically restrain her while she fought and screamed. She was still yelling threats as they loaded her into the patrol car. You think you've won, but I'll find a way to make you pay. You destroyed my life. Good luck with that, I called back as the car doors slammed. Tony pulled up just as they were driving away. Well, that's one way to end it, he said, opening a drink. Think that's finally the end of the Miranda show? Better be. She's looking at serious jail time for violating the restraining order, plus the defamation lawsuit. 6 months later, I used the money I'd originally saved for Miranda's Jeep as a down payment on 40 acres in East Texas. Got a cabin, a creek, and the kind of peace you can't buy in the city. Sometimes I get updates through mutual friends. Miranda served 4 months for violating the restraining order and criminal trespass. She's working at a call center now, living in a small apartment, still dealing with the financial wreckage she created. Katie apparently learned nothing from watching her sister's life implode and is currently cheating on her new boyfriend. Some people never learn anything.